the sun. To dream, believe in strength now.
Let's listen to Pavarotti.
Can I be your superhero?
Hello, welcome to The Revealing. I'm your host, Pavarotti, and I'm here to discuss the Idaho 4 case. And this is the video that I've been saying that I'm going to put out. And let me tell you, if you believe in truth and justice, at the end of this video, if you're not mad, or if you're not more educated about where we are in this case right now, then you didn't watch the video, because this one is going to put things in black and white. And when you see it in black and white, the way that I'm about to present it, I mean, it's got to be a total outlook changer on this case. And if you are a guilter and you watch this video with an open mind, I promise you at the end, you will have, at the very least, considerable doubts about the guilt of Bryan Kohberger and what law enforcement has done to him in this case. Because we're going to go through everything that law enforcement had as they applied for the AT&T first warrant. And we're going to show what they showed the magistrate, and we're going to show all of the lies in there and what they should have shown the magistrate. And we'll see what was left. And I'm going to put them side by side after I go through them. I'm going to show you where it's all debunked. And when you see what's left and what should have actually been shown to the magistrate, I mean, it's amazing. So again, that affidavit, probable cause, they call it Exhibit A. That's law enforcement statements. They said during the investigation it was a living document. And they just continued to add things to it until they got the probable cause completed for the arrest warrant. So up until the first AT&T warrant, there was certain information that they already had on their Exhibit A affidavit. And we can now determine what they took to the magistrate. So what I'm going to do is show you all that information up until the AT&T warrant, and then show you the reality of the situation. Pay close attention. This one is very important. This is probably, I mean, the judge needs to watch this one. Okay, so we're going to start off with law enforcement's investigation and exactly what they've stated in their probable cause affidavit up until the time that they got the first AT&T warrant on December 23rd, 2022 for Bryan Kohberger's phone. Okay, so we start on November 13th, 2022, the night of the atrocity, and the evidence collected that day was they found a knife sheath and they took a statement from DM, according to the PCA. And what I'm going through this, I'm only going to show the actual evidence that they're using to paint a picture in this probable cause affidavit to get the first AT&T warrant. So we're going to go through it. It starts out, as I entered the bedroom, I could see two females in a single bed in the room. Both Gonzalez and Mogan were deceased with visible stab wounds. I also later noticed what appeared to be a tan leather knife sheath laying on the bed next to Mogan's right side when viewed from the door. The sheath was later processed and had a K-bar, USMC, and the United States Marine Corps Eagle Globe and anchor insignia stamped on the outside of it. The Idaho State Lab later located a single source of male DNA, suspect profile, left on the button snap of the knife sheath. Okay, and I put a note in here that they submitted it to CODIS, the single source of male DNA, on November 20th, 2022. First piece of evidence that they have. Then we have DM stated she opened her door for the third time after she heard the crying and saw a figure clad in black clothing and a mask that covered the person's mouth and nose walking towards her. DM described the figure as 5'10" or taller, male, not very muscular, but athletically built with bushy eyebrows. The male walked past DM as she stood in the frozen shock phase. And then the male walked towards the back sliding glass door. DM locked herself in her room. Okay, so we're not going to get into what we've learned the truth is at this point. We're going to stick strictly with law enforcement's investigation. So we got DM and her description of the assailant. Now, the next piece of evidence listed in the PCA is the Vans type shoe print. And it says, during the processing of the crime scene, investigators found a latent shoe print. This was located during the second processing of the crime scene by the ISP forensic team by first using a presumptive blood test and then amino black, a protein stain that detects the presence of cellular material. The detected shoe print showed a diamond-shaped pattern similar to the pattern of a Vans type sole shoe sole, and it says just outside the door of DM's bedroom, located on the second floor. This is consistent with DM's statement regarding the suspect's path of travel. And we got to remember this. It says just outside the door of DM's bedroom, located on the second floor, because this is consistent with DM's statement regarding the suspect's path of travel. So that gives them, on November 13th, they found the sheath. They got the statement from DM. Then, processing the crime scene, they found a Vans type shoe print right outside of DM's door, which verifies her statement. But then we've got videos of suspect vehicles. A review of camera footage indicated that a white sedan, hereafter suspect vehicle 1, was observed traveling westbound in the 700 block of Indian Hills Drive in Moscow at approximately 3:26 a.m. and westbound on Steiner Avenue at Idaho State Highway 95 in Moscow at approximately 3:28 a.m. Now it says on this video, it appeared suspect vehicle 1 was not displaying a front license plate. Okay, that's going to be important here in a minute. So we've got two videos so far of suspect vehicle 1, they say. One says it shows it wasn't showing a front license plate. A review of footage from multiple videos obtained from the King Road neighborhood showed multiple sightings of suspect vehicle 1 starting at 3:29 and ending at 4:20. These sightings show suspect vehicle 1 makes an initial 3 passes around the King Road residence and then leave via Walenta Drive. And then a review of footage from multiple videos obtained from the King Road neighborhood showed multiple sightings of suspect vehicle 1 starting at 3:29 and ending at 4:20. These sightings show suspect vehicle 1 makes an initial 3 passes by the 1122 King Road residence and then leave via Walenta Drive. Okay, so that's all the video of the vehicle in Moscow. And then it says, after reviewing the numerous observations of suspect vehicle 1, the forensic examiner believed it was a 2011 to 2013 Hyundai Elantra. But then it says, upon further review, he indicated it could be an 11 to 16. As a result, investigators have been reviewing information on persons in possession of a vehicle that's 11 to 16, white Hyundai Elantra. Okay. Really what it should have said at this point is, after reviewing the numerous observations of suspect vehicle 1, the forensic examiner believes suspect vehicle 1 was a 2011 to 2013 Hyundai Elantra. But they added the extra part. Because, just so you know, they couldn't identify the Elantra from this camera on Indian Hills. They couldn't identify it as an Elantra at this camera on Steiner, and they actually couldn't identify that it didn't have a front license plate on either of these cameras, nor this camera in the King Road neighborhood or Walenta. None of these cameras. The only one they could find that they could actually identify that didn't have a front license plate, and they identified it as an 11 to 13, was this one going the wrong way on Ridge Road. And since that Elantra down in Eugene, Oregon was registered in Colorado, I'm going to ask y'all a question. Do Colorado residents have front license plates. We'll move on. But then investigators were given access to video footage on the Washington State University campus in Pullman. And you can see they have numerous sightings of a vehicle in Pullman, Washington on camera. And at different times, they find this vehicle in Pullman, Washington on camera. I'm not going to read all that, we know it. But then it says the Pullman, Washington was provided to the same FBI forensic examiner, and he identified that vehicle as a 14 to 16 Hyundai Elantra. Now, we remember earlier when it said, after reviewing numerous observations of suspect vehicle 1, the forensic examiner initially believed suspect vehicle 1 was an 11 to 13 Hyundai Elantra. But upon further review, he indicated it could also be an 11 to 16. And as a result, they're looking for vehicles from 11 to 16. And what that means is they looked at the vehicle in the King Road neighborhood as an 11 to 13, but he identified that one in Pullman as a 14 to 16. So at this time, they've expanded it out and they're looking for 11 to 16 because it's still early on. And because it's still early on and they're looking for an 11 to 16, things are happening in this order according to the PCA. So we've got on November 13th, they found the sheath, got the statement from DM, got the Vans type shoe print not long after, and then they've reviewed all of these vehicles of suspect vehicles. So they've got their vehicle they're looking for. It's an 11 to 16 according to the PCA. So they send a bolo out to all of the law enforcement in the area to be on the lookout for a white Hyundai Elantra. And then on November 29th, they hit pay dirt because the WSU cop finds BCK's white Elantra. And since it's a 2015, it matches that 11 to 16 year range that they were looking for. Oh, and also as he checks it, it didn't have a front license plate. And then when he pulls his driver's license, he matches the suspect's description. It's 6 foot, 185. That's slim, but still athletic. And he has bushy eyebrows according to his picture. So everything's working out just perfect. See, you can see that on November 25th, he queried. November 29th, Daniel Tiengo registered at WSU. He located the 15 Elantra known as kohbergers. And then Whitman also ran the car and returned to Kohberger with a Washington tag. And he got Kohberger's driver's license. And look, his license is a white male, 6 foot, 185. And it shows he has bushy eyebrows, which is consistent with the description of the male DM saw in the King Road residence. So everything's working out. Oh, and then they queried the database to find stops, and they found a stop that recorded Kohberger's phone number in an earlier traffic stop. So everything's going just kind of perfect right here. All right, so they've got everything. They got the sheath. They got statements from the witness, van shoe print that matches up with the witness's statement, video of suspect vehicles that all match up, and then the WSU cop finds the suspect vehicle, pulls his license. He didn't have a front license plate, so that matched the suspect vehicles that they were looking for. And he, according to his license, he matched the physical description of DM. And the only other thing was they pulled all of the cell phones in the area of the King Road residence between 3 and 5. So they needed to take his phone number now that they found it and see if it was in the area. Now, as part of the investigation, law enforcement obtained search warrants to determine cellular devices that utilized cellular towers in close proximity of the King Road residence on November 13th between 3 and 5 a.m. Now, after determining Kohberger was associated with the 15 Elantra and the 8458 phone, investigators reviewed these search warrants. And a query of the 8458 phone and these returns did not show that the phone was utilizing tower resources in close proximity to the King Road residence between 3 and 5. So dang it, his phone, he wasn't in the area. Oh, wait a minute. We know. He turned his phone off, and that's what criminals do before they commit a crime. Okay, that's our last piece of evidence. Let's get a warrant. So that was what they had to get the warrant for the AT&T first warrant. Everything seemed to line up pretty good when you put it that way for the magistrate. So they applied for the warrant and got it on 12/23/2022. Now that we've seen the recent hearing, though, and a lot of our doubts have been confirmed, now let's see how this thing really looks in reality. And you're gonna freak out when I'm done with this, I assure you. So when we take that entire investigation in order by dates, like I just showed you, with all of their evidence on this side, and we're going to go ahead and start putting in the truth on this side, okay? November 13th, they found a sheath. Now, what about the statement from DM? Well, let's listen to the hearing, and we'll see what, the prosecution and the defense has to say about that statement.
Has claimed memory problems, that this witness has claimed that she's not sure what she heard or saw was real or whether it was at a dream, and that is contained in defendant's 8C.
DM told law enforcement she, when shown a picture, didn't recognize the defendant. Well, it's clear from reading the probable cause affidavit that she's not going to recognize the defendant.
What relevance was the statements of DM that were included in the affidavit as to probable cause?
I cited those in my response throughout.
What were they?
Okay. I can tell you generally, consistently, she gave the same set of facts.
I understand the things that she said. Why was it important the magistrate know those things? In other words, are they going to who the ID of the perpetrator is? Are they going to establish a timeline of when the alleged or when the murders took place?
Both.
Okay, so it's part ID as well?
I think that it goes to giving a general description of the person that she saw in the residence around the time that corroborates when we know these crimes occurred. Yes, a general description is material and relevant. And that general description, which is what was provided in the PC affidavit, was consistent throughout all of her interviews. She described seeing someone wearing all black, a mask with only a portion of their face showing and visible. This person was male, white. She heard a voice that was not something that she recognized. The person was a slim, skinny, lean build. And the person was taller than she is around 5'8".
So DM, the perp, was taller than 5'8". He was white, slim, wearing a ninja mask, but she'd been drinking, and she doesn't know if what she's seen was real or if it was just a dream. And when showed a picture of Bryan Kohberger, she didn't recognize him. So all of this was left out from the description in the probable cause affidavit that was given to the magistrate. And what did this really tell us once we truly heard the description given by the prosecutor? Not the defense, but the prosecutor. Well, that takes the statement from DM out of this little progression of evidence, but it also takes out the description that the law enforcement said matched the suspect's description when they looked at Bryan Kohberger's driver's license. Because nowhere in that description that the prosecutor gave said that she said he had bushy eyebrows, and she said he was over 5'8" and skinny, not 6 foot 185, athletically built. None of that was said. So these two are now gone. But let's keep going. What is next? Oh, videos of suspect vehicles, right? Because that was the next key part before the WSU cop finds Kohberger's Elantra. Those are key because that established the 2011 to 2016 year models, so that when the WSU cop finds Kohberger's Elantra on November 29th, it matched the suspect vehicle description. And it wasn't just another Elantra in the 22,000 that they had compiled.
Your Honor, the next part of the affidavit talks about what they have determined to be suspect vehicle number 1. And it trails a path of pieced together cameras. But what they don't tell the magistrate is that the camera near the residence, the 1112 King Road camera near 1122 King Road, you can't tell what kind of car it is. They don't tell the magistrate that that's an impossible car, that their expert can't make an identification off that. They don't tell the magistrate that this is pieced together from various other videos throughout the area. That's withheld from the magistrate. That's important information when you tell a magistrate, we found this car doing this thing and we know what it is. It's around this particular area. The next issue is the year of the car. Law enforcement works with the FBI to determine the year of the car, and the FBI provides some possibilities after numerous submissions to them, and the court knows this and can read about this. This is going to be in, I believe, D10. That's in D9. And finally, after several submissions, that's when the FBI IML says, I can make a car identification. The issue with that that's not disclosed to the magistrate is that car appears one time on one video and not any of the others that they try to say are the path. It's not, let me see if I can say this right. It's not following a consistent trail where the one camera that can identify the car, where it appears again. It appears one time, and then what law enforcement did was they took several videos from all over the area and said, well, it's the same car, and we have an identification. That's not all. The identification was most comfortably from that FBI agent to be a 2011 to 2013 Elantra, and that's what law enforcement relied on. The court has, it is D12, and it's the Be on the Lookout that was issued by Moscow Police Department, where they look for a 2011 to 13 Hyundai Elantra. And that's what they're looking for, and they don't tell the magistrate that's what they're looking for. They mislead the magistrate and let the magistrate believe that they have a clear view of this car making this loop, and that's just not what happened. It's pieced together, and it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Well, let's talk about that license plate for a second, though, because that's not something you can see from the videos, and that was testimony you heard today. You can't see that from the video.
It's clear. Well, they take issue with that video because, and specifically we're talking about 1125 Ridge Road, because they say, well, that can't be surveillance video of the white Elantra, even though it was caught on video about 0.3 miles from the crime scene.
The FBI IML says, I can make a car identification. That's not all. The identification was most comfortably from that FBI agent to be a 2011 to 2013 Elantra.
Okay, so what we just learned right there was videos of suspect vehicle. Nope, those were identified as a 2011 to 2013 on one camera that wasn't even consistent with the path of travel of the other cameras that they couldn't identify a vehicle on. So, and also we learned that none of the videos actually showed that the vehicle didn't have a front license plate. So they added that later as well. So that eliminates the suspect vehicles, his description in his driver's license, the license plate, the statement of DM. All they have left now, we got the November 29th WSU cop finding the Elantra, and we got that van shoe print, and we've got his phone was turned off. So that's all that's left. Let's go ahead and talk about this WSU cop finding the Elantra on November 29th.
Then WSU, Washington State University, officers find cars. They find one that's registered to Bryan Kohberger, parked at the apartments he lived in, but it was a 2015 Elantra, and so they don't really do much with it. But this is placed, that is placed in the affidavit like it was an investigative fact, and it wasn't. It was on the 20th of December when the detective, the lead detective, got a hold of WSU police and found out about that and said, oh, hey, you called this in. He didn't know about that before, but there's no context around that. That's just stacked in there like it creates probable cause when it doesn't. You know that's the case when you look at a couple of our exhibits. One is prior testimony from that same detective. And if you look at the messaging between the detective and the WSU police officer about the timing of that.
Okay, so that means that on November 29th, when the WSU officer found Bryan's Elantra, that because it was a 2015, it did not match the FBI agent's video of the suspect vehicle, or didn't match his identification. So instead of being given to the investigators, it was logged with the other 22,000 Elantras, most of which didn't match the description either. So that wasn't real evidence either. And the only things we have left then is the Vans type shoe print, or the fact that his phone wasn't in the area of the towers. Now, let's look at the phone not being in the area of the towers one more time. On November 13th, between 3 and 5, after determining Kohberger was associated with the Elantra and 8458 phone, investigators reviewed these search warrants and a query of the 8458 phone, and these returns did not show the 8458 phone utilizing tower resources in close proximity to the King Road residence between 3 and 5. So it actually says that he was not in the area when they did the phone dump. So them saying, well, criminals turn off their phone when they commit a crime has absolutely no relevance whatsoever. So that one's gone. The only thing that really leaves left is that Vans type shoe print that was right outside DM's door, which verified DM's statement. But wait a minute, since DM's statement has already been found to not be credible, well, then that would mean her statement related to the shoe print would not be credible either. And they proved that in the hearing, but I'm not going to go through and play that part. I've already discussed that and you know it. So come December 23rd, once you take out everything that we've just looked at, the only thing that law enforcement had was they found a knife sheath. That's the only thing they had to go towards Bryan Kohberger in any way. Now, what they didn't say was on December 19th, a confidential informant gave information, or on December 19th, a fake IGG pointed at Bryan Kohberger. Either way, they didn't disclose any of this to the magistrate whatsoever. So when it came time to get the AT&T warrant, not only did all they have was, well, we found a knife sheath and no identifiable information on there to point to a suspect because we're not going to show you that, but they also left off a completely contradicting statement from the other witness, BF, and didn't disclose that to the magistrate at all. This is all they had to get the warrant for the AT&T. Both AT&T warrants will be suppressed. There is no doubt. When you look at it like this, my goodness, what kind of travesty of justice are we looking at in this case? Tell you what, folks, that was a difficult video to put it together in the right way, in the right order, but it may very well be the most important video that I've done on this case to this date. Because when I watched the hearing the other day, when I heard these things come up, this is exactly the way that I saw everything in that hearing. And that's why when it was done, I had a completely different take than almost everybody out there. Because as I was hearing these things, I checked off the evidence in my mind. Because I already knew most of it was bogus, but there was some bombshells that verified it was. And you know that it's facts now, because as you heard, whenever the defense got up and made their argument, the prosecution had a chance to get up and counter-argue. They didn't argue any of these facts the defense put out. Their only argument was, well, let's just say that it is, BS. It doesn't rise to the level of a Frank's motion. They didn't refute anything. In fact, if anything, on it, things that they were trying to refute, they just gave more information to make it even less valid. It's amazing. But when you look at what they had on Kohberger on December 23rd, by hiding the confidential informant or the fake IgG, they hit them both. They had nothing. They had absolutely nothing to get a warrant. They had nothing. I mean, they had the fact that maybe he was out driving in another town heading in the wrong direction at a different time. That's all they had. They had nothing. And when you look at it that way, you clearly see they had nothing. And now, if you didn't understand before, I hope you understand now. Now, because these are a little bit more difficult to make, to get that much detail and to get it in order so that you can see with the hearing how this applies, that takes me a little bit longer. So probably in a few days, I'll come out with part 2 of this, and that'll be from the AT&T warrant to the end of the probable cause affidavit, because it gets even worse after that. But in the meantime, please like and subscribe to the channel, post your comments, thoughts, criticisms, and until next time, Pavarotti's out.
until I